Today, we're diving into the he said, she said of the latest commission settlement stuff and asking the big question: why the hell doesn't anyone seem to know exactly what they should be doing? First, we'll break down what this means for agents, and then we'll flip the script and talk about buyers and sellers and what these changes mean for them and how they should protect themselves as we move into the 2025 market. Spoiler alert, it's complicated, but don't worry, we've got Summer Goralik here to help us cut through the confusion and figure it all out. Let's talk about it. Welcome to the Real Estate Replay. I'm Wendy Gilch, an industry outsider here to reveal the hidden practices and explain the processes that can impact your next home purchase or sale. Alongside other industry misfits, we'll call out these poor practices and equip home buyers and sellers with insights they need to protect themselves every step of the way. So I'm super excited to have you on today because I feel like there is just this big gap between what the plaintiff side says, what NAR is saying and the defendants are saying, and then there's a bunch of random people in the middle that are like, yes, you can do this. No, you can't. And you always write the best articles for Inman, answering questions for people. So Summer, I would love for you to just give like 2 minutes before we hash out this hot mess of settlements and what buyers and sellers should know, to just explain your background, because you are more than well experienced in enforcement rules, especially for California specifically. So if you could just share with everyone your background, that would be great.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate this. This is fun. My career in real estate spans about 20 years now, and it's kind of not just normal real estate practice. It's like everything but, actually. I worked in the escrow industry for about 5 years. I thought I was going to go to law school. I kind of did a U-turn on that. And then before you know it, the escrow industry pushed me out. It was such a stressful profession. I don't know if a lot of people realize that escrow officers are dealing with everybody on that real estate transaction. It's a lot. It was very stressful for me. I didn't have an assistant. I was working for a broker controlled escrow. So I literally ran away to the government. I don't know how many people can say that, but
Yeah.
and I worked for the California Department of Real Estate for 6 years as an investigator. So I was tasked with reviewing complaints filed against real estate brokers, salespeople, corporations, and then of course non-licensed people out there performing real estate. There's a lot of them. So I had a great time working for the DRE. I got to write articles. I was on task forces. I worked very closely with the FBI and law enforcement partners, which I don't think people really think, oh, does DRE talk to those people? Yes, they do.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I worked at the Orange County District Attorney's Office. I worked in their real estate fraud unit. I was an economic crimes investigator. And I always tell people I was the only one on my floor that didn't have a gun. So I was just walking around as a, kind of an agency expert in real estate, but essentially criminally investigating real estate licensees.
Mm-hmm.
And then for the last 8 years, I've been working as a real estate compliance consultant. So I help brokers mainly prepare for government audits, maybe investigations. And also there's all those proactive brokers out there that maybe they're not under investigation or audit, and they just want to evaluate their compliance, figure out if they're doing anything wrong. And I help spot those issues and help them correct it. And I work.
That should be everybody, right? Shouldn't that be everybody at this point? Like, if
I love the proactive broker client calls that just, hey, did DRE just call you? No, we just want to be better. It's like, yes, let's do that. Those are the best clients. And there's a lot of people like that out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like I feel bad because I end up connecting with a ton of people, usually through social media, who want to do the right thing, but they're usually like the smaller independent brokers, or, they're just like an individual agent who isn't sure, like, if their broker is telling them the right thing, and they're like, something feels off. And
Right.
I feel like those people get overshadowed by those that are just messing it up for everybody and giving bad advice. So your experience here is going to be great to rehash this hot mess of a settlement. And I know California is changing some things starting in January. So it's just, I've never seen, I don't think anybody has, and I don't think anybody thought this would come to fruition, like a court, like a trial, a whole system, a whole lawsuit that went on for this many years that made such a big change that I don't think any expected to change. Even leading up to the settlement, there were people that were saying, "Oh, NAR told us we're going to fight this," and I'm like, "Do you know that they're like in meetings negotiating a settlement right now? Like they are maybe fighting it with a settlement, but you're not getting away with this. Like it's not like it's going to go away." And it just is such a messy, interesting dynamic. And I think it's really important that we clarify some things, at least from your perspective, especially those in California, for consumers, because no one's doing the same thing and it's just a shit show. See, I told you we would swear. I told you. I told you we'd come out. I told you.
Yeah.
All right. So let's start with the first question. Why do you think it's so hard in real estate for people to agree on what the settlement says that realtors can and cannot do? Why is
Yeah.
it such a shit show?
You would think it'd be a very simple thing and that everyone would get on board and there'd be one unified way to do it because they just went through a massive commission litigation, right? And, there's still more cases out there. This was just the
Mhm.
home sellers class action. But I think you kind of said it in your intro there. The narrative on this has been evolving constantly. And I think when the jury verdict came out last year, everyone was like, oh my gosh, how could this happen? And NAR was going to fight the good fight. And I think a lot of realtors were, they were empowered by that. They didn't
Mhm.
do anything wrong. We're going to fight this. We're going to appeal this. And I think that was like the initial thought process. It wasn't about changing anything. It was like, we're going to fight this. And a lot of people took sort of this false sense of security in the fact that, oh, this is going to take years to unwind, right?
Mhm.
They'll be very happy and cozy, in the current sort of historical way of doing things until this unwinds itself in court. And then
Mhm.
all of a sudden, the NAR settlement of March of this year, and it was like, oh shit, well, I didn't see this coming. And all of a sudden now it was like, okay, we've settled. We have these practice changes. Oh my gosh, what are we going to do? So once again, the conversation changed. And I'll tell you, Wendy, just like so many, I didn't know all the answers. I wanted to learn as much as I could. I'm just following every news source. I was in every town hall, virtual webinars. I was just really just saturating myself with
Mhm.
information, which I urge everyone to do, especially now. Um, but I sat in so many town hall meetings where well-established attorneys here in California were telling a room full of realtors, don't worry, nothing's going to change. You're still going to
Mhm.
get paid. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, hold on, something's changed here. We got a
Yeah.
massive settlement that's over 100 pages long. There's these practice changes and the MLS is changing and forms are changing. And oh my goodness, how could you tell people that nothing's going to change? And so then there was like this sort of thing. And I remember sitting in these town halls and realtors would raise their hand and say, well, how am I supposed to talk about commission with my clients? And all of a sudden, things were being worked out and it was sort of mind boggling. Um,
Mhm.
and then eventually, now where we're at, I mean, and I know you have other questions on this, but we have these different institutions saying different things.
Mhm.
So I can't live with that. And I don't even practice real estate. I just work in the compliance part of it. But
Right.
that would drive me crazy. I mean, having worked for the California DRE, when you have a regulator telling their stakeholders and licensees, we don't want to see this, don't do this, like the DOJ,
Mhm.
obviously not a fan of cooperative compensation, even though the
Mhm.
settlement did not forbid this, right? If you have the DOJ telling you this and you have NAR saying, no, it's fine, you can do this. I feel like we have to get to the bottom of that and some of the other sort of disconnects before we can ever feel normal again or do things right or not fear, antitrust action. I think we have to get to the bottom of it.
Right. And I think the worst part is then you have some brokers that are saying like, hey, the DOJ said they don't want this, so we're just not going to do it. And I know there's a bunch of them. There's some in Colorado. And I think at one point even the California realtors took like for a listing, didn't they take buy side commission like off
Totally.
completely? Told it off completely, right? So like
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, let's not deal with this. But then
Right.
other people, like there's contracts that I saw in Ohio that are like still sharing commission. And if you don't take all of it, the listing agent's getting it. And I was like, are we still doing this? Like I thought that we were done with this.
Right. But
Just
this is the problem. Like the settlement did not prohibit this.
Mhm.
It took it off MLS, but specifically does not say that it can't be done elsewhere. So if you say that, if that's fine, if that can go on without any issue with for the settlement, then there are going to be some realtors that don't want to change and
Yep.
will continue to do that. But then when you also have the DOJ saying that we have a problem with this, offers on off the MLS is fine, but we don't want to see them anywhere. I mean, that was a direct quote from, Jessica Leal, a
Mhm.
DOJ attorney. Like, I don't know. For me, I look as the federal government is, the highest, and I don't want to get in their bad way. I don't want to
Right, right.
side. So I do think NAR has to address this. I mean, and I think that realtors should be demanding that they address it.
Mhm.
So maybe the settlement didn't prohibit it. What should we be doing? And I don't know, maybe they can't give that guidance. I mean, I'm not an attorney. Maybe there's things that they're, prohibited from telling their realtors, but I do think that there needs to be clarity, I'm annoyed. I'm
Yeah.
annoyed by the fact that there's no clarity. It
I
shouldn't be
remember even the
not that
first,
hard.
yeah, well, even like after the settlement first came out, and I think it was Kevin made a video and it was like, listen, we're not going to do offers of compensation. And then it was like a wink, wink, like, but I know you guys will figure it out. And I'm like, okay, you just told them, don't worry about it. You'll do something else. Okay. So there's a loophole, number one.
Right.
And then there's the whole like
Yeah.
you can make more than your agreement. You just have to have your buyer sign it, which I think Doug and I did a whole podcast with Rob Hahn about this stuff. And
Yep.
even recently, the plaintiff side put out that giant response to people that kind of didn't want the settlement to go through and was very clear, like you cannot make more than what's in your agreement. And then like a little bit later, you have a buddy of the president of NAR making a video saying, I think you can make more than your agreement. And here's why. Now, I did not watch the video because I just
Right.
don't watch his stuff. I just out of principle, I can't do it. I won't do it. But the title alone was like, here's why I think you can make more in your agreement. And I'm like, and you are like the buddy of the president of NAR. So then people that follow him are going to be like, well, he said it's okay. So I guess
Right.
it's okay. And it's like,
Right.
so then all of this translates down to consumers too. So it's like you're not sure what your agent's telling you, nor do you
Yeah.
really we probably still don't understand as a consumer who gets paid what and how. Because
No.
even before that, I forget what the percentage was, the amount of buyers that didn't know how their agent got paid or know how much they got paid was like astronomical. I think combined together it was like 40 some percent. So to not know how much or how is a big issue. And now we're trying to change that process. And it's like, okay, so how do we help consumers with this? And it's just weird that there's no clarifying one guideline, right? It's like a
Yeah.
guideline from NAR with gray area, and then a very
Yes.
bold statement from the plaintiff side, and then everyone's in between, like, which way do I go? Who should I listen to?
Yeah, I thought that motion that was filed, I don't know, maybe it was a week or so, maybe it's around November 20th or something like that. The motion that was filed by the plaintiffs, and obviously it addressed, law contracts professor Tanya Monastier's,
Mhm.
136-page objection. I thought that motion was amazing
Mhm.
because, I'm constantly reading frequently asked questions by NAR. I want to see if they've been updated. And those are great, right? Those form a good basis for people to kind of wrap their head around it. But there was so much in that motion that if you were to compare it right now, and I don't believe NAR has updated those frequently asked questions. I think the last time was around September. They're in
Mhm.
desperate need of a refresh. And in light of that motion, that really just it quashes with
Mhm.
under no uncertain terms what is not allowed. And I think every realtor, I mean, they should read it, but hopefully NAR will expose it and train on it. And so then state and local associations can train on it. And heck, forms might need to be updated as a result of
Mhm.
that motion. I thought the motion was amazing because it's finally some things that I can get behind in terms of, okay, clear answers. No, you cannot do that. It makes my job a lot easier as a
Right.
compliance consultant when people get on the phone with me and they have a question. Well, absolutely, you cannot do that, and let me tell you why. Let me point you to the document that says you really should not do that. So I
Yeah.
love that, but I think without NAR kind of yelling it from the rooftops, like it's not going to get dispersed, and I think that needs to happen, and it's sort of the clock's ticking on that. Right.
Yeah. Which, okay, so leads me to my next one. So
Yeah.
outside of NAR, because the other issue is when this all came out, NAR went to the MLSs and said, "Here you go. What did they say? Good luck and Godspeed. you're in charge of enforcement. And all these poor little MLSs are like, what the F? Like, what are you talking about?
Just
Like just
happened.
totally blindsided.
Right.
And I'm
Woke
thinking
up and
like you were in the settlement room, not the MLSs. Like, why aren't you creating enforcement? What about the state associations? What about the local associations? Like where, I mean, what about the broker? I mean, the person that's responsible, the people that should be calling you to say, hey, I don't know if we're doing this right. Can you help me?
yeah.
It was weird to think that they just kind of turned around and told the MLS, good luck. Here you go. Here's what we want to do. Implement it with your little funds and your little workforce. Well, we
Yeah.
have millions and millions of dollars with our fancy area in Chicago. It just didn't make sense. But so who do you think should be really leading the charge? Does it need to be an individual broker just covering themselves?
Well, what's interesting is I think individual brokers, especially brokers that are supervising agents, like, sorry, you kind of inherit this no matter what. Like you
Mhm.
are, and it's not just, because a lot of this is not state law, right? There's a disconnect
Yeah.
between practice rules and state law, which by the way, that never helps.
Yeah.
It never helps to have another rule enforced by a different enforcement body. So, but not to digress on that, but I think brokers, if they are in charge of, their corporations or maybe their sole proprietorships, and they have a sales force, they have to supervise for this, Wendy. It's
Mhm.
on their watch because if something happens with one of their agents, people will also include the brokers in those actions because the brokers are responsible for their
Right.
agent
Well, and the
supervision.
broker's name is on the contract too. I think we forget about that. Like
Yeah,
your
so
contract
whether
is technically with the broker,
the
with
broker
this
owns it.
person helping you.
Yes, absolutely. So it brokers, no matter what, are tasked with enforcement, but we also need sort of like an independent body. And if it's not the state regulator, right? If state laws and practice rules don't line up, then yes, we need, I mean, it's not the MLS, right? I mean, I've been writing for Inman, as you mentioned, and I get, feedback once in a while, and some guy, I don't know what state it was, but he's like, yeah, I work for the MLS and I got one person, it's me, and I'm in charge of enforcement. It's like, oh my gosh,
Yep.
I'm so sorry, but that's not practical and that's not going to
Mm-mm.
be effective. And
Right.
they're being set up to fail in some ways.
Right.
And they're not going to be able to do it, right? They're not going to be able to do it in some cases.
Or do they know what they're supposed to be doing? Right.
No,
So
no.
you have people still out there that are like, we did nothing wrong. This settlement is a bunch of bullshit and it's an attack. I've seen everything. They're attacking us because it's a predominantly female industry. They're attacking us because it's just always some conspiracy instead of saying like, hey, maybe these practices aren't working and this is what we're doing now. So like, let's figure it out. But it just doesn't. So if the person in the MLS, or even I had someone tell me, I think it was Wisconsin, that their legal department for, I think it was the State Realtor Association, was like, steering doesn't exist. Like, I'm like, well, I mean, the lawsuit says differently. So maybe that perspective is not helpful. You obviously don't think anything needs to change. So that person's guiding a whole organization, right? And
Yes.
I just don't, it's such a mess.
So it all kind of trickles down, right? So
Mhm.
we need NAR to do the right thing so that state and local boards can do the right thing and so that brokers can lead their agents effectively. So it kind of does have to start at the top, but if that doesn't happen, I don't want brokers sitting around waiting for it, right? They
Mhm.
do kind of have to take action over their agents, and hopefully they're diversifying, the guidance that they're getting, right? Good attorneys that know antitrust law. I mean, really that have all
Right.
of the angles figured out. There's a lot of real estate attorneys out there, but everyone kind of sometimes has a special, niche in that. So they need to find the right sources if they're not getting it from the top.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned, I shouldn't share that. She's probably gonna get mad at me. Tanya was telling me when she first started to write about stuff and write about these contracts, she's like, I had a bunch of associations reach out to me like, hey, can you help us? And she's like, sure, here's my fee. And they're like, oh, never mind. We don't want to pay you. And she's like, what? Isn't that like the pot calling the kettle? Like you always say we don't work for free or we don't want to work for free, but then you're asking me to work for free. It just seems like an offhanded. I mean, maybe they don't have a ton of money, but I don't know. But like,
Yeah, it
you know,
covers a lot of factors there, but yeah, I mean, it's not cheap to get solid quality guidance and advice. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure I feel bad for small independent brokers because I feel like, Doug Miller always says like the small independent brokers are like the place to be because there's less restrictions, there's less corporation tape, there's less guidelines of how much you need to charge. Like it just seems like there's more flexibility for consumers to talk, less instances of maybe having dual agency.
Mhm.
But I can understand how maybe it's pricey for them. It's almost like you want them to just like get together to just chip in and get some guidance. I don't know. I
Right.
wish they would do something because
Well, it is kind of an interesting time because for me personally, like I've always, when people look for, they're looking for real estate forums and education, like, California Association of Realtors, I've always recommended it, endorsed, and so many of my clients have been members of CAR. And to create a form outside of your association would be ludicrous, right? There'd be so much liability. And even brokers have policies in their policy manuals that specifically tell agents, do not steer from the ship here. You have to use approved forms. But for the very first time, those forms are being highly scrutinized. And I actually think this is a second issue that NAR should really comment on as part of their frequently asked questions or just general guidance. Like, if there's liability with their members using those forms, tell us those risks. Let
yeah.
us weigh the pros and cons, and maybe how can we eliminate those risks. And I just think that there's a lot of elephants in the room and there's almost no more space. And
Mhm.
we have to kind of get to the bottom of it.
Right.
But
And
what I was going to say is that a lot
yeah,
of brokers now are no longer members of NAR. Like they're dropping out more. And I've never experienced that in my career. I've never had people say, oh, you know what? We're actually not going to be a member anymore. We're so disillusioned and disenchanted by what's happened. And they're jumping.
yeah,
That's
yeah. So then it's weird too. So, and I want to get into the consumer part too, but this is part of the issue. So then you have this huge settlement, but that technically just applies to realtors. So then those that aren't realtors, then state laws just apply. And some of the state laws are really, really, really lax or how they view agreements. Like I'm pretty sure in mine, it's like, oh, you have to sign this at some point, but in the past, that some point could have been when you're making an offer and you already know the commission. So the agent's like, all right, well, it looks like they're offering 3%. I charge 3%. Here you go. Can you sign this? And it's like, oh. So,
yeah.
I considering that realtors sit on the state boards, I wonder if next year we'll see more individual state changes. Do you think?
Yeah, so for California, I mean, that is a state governmental regulator. And
Mhm.
so there is, I mean, I used to work at the DRE, the executive leadership team. Not everyone's a real estate broker. And even then, I don't know that they're practicing brokers. When I worked there, Wayne Bell, he was amazing. He had been the chief legal counsel before he became the real estate commissioner. And so but I imagine, in other states, there's different setups. And I know that there's, sort of not as much teeth. It may be, like you said, more of a real estate commission board and it's set up differently. But in
Mhm.
California, it's a state regulator, and the laws, you can get in big trouble if you're breaking them.
Yeah.
And
It's just,
they enforce, they're enforcing the law.
mhm. That's going to be interesting. And then, so my other question, because um, I would love your opinion on this because you wrote about this and I keep thinking about it. So, before we switch to the consumer side, one more for
Yeah,
agents
yeah.
and brokerages. You talked about like, oh, you can't accept more money than this, but then you talk about these like hidden ways for agents to make money. So my question to you is, we have these marketing agreements that some people have a partnership with somebody. For example, say that their client buys an ADT security package from ADT and the agent now gets $200. Does that count towards you cannot make more than X amount from the buyer?
That's a very interesting question. So you're kind of alluding to, yeah, the marketing service agreement fees or compensation. Although, if it's a law abiding marketing service agreement, that's going to be subject to RESPA, right? And
Mhm.
and the CFPB's enforcement of RESPA. But, depending on that contract, there may be not licensed service involved, and they could argue that, no, this is outside the scope. And I do believe that this is another area that needs to be, I'm not an attorney and I could opine on this, but I do think that more than anything, that has to be disclosed to consumers.
Mhm.
And, marketing service agreements are one thing, Wendy, but, in just normal everyday real estate, there are referral fees constantly being
Mhm.
given and
Yeah.
received. And
Zillow.
yeah, and even just between brokerages, and buyers don't know that, oh my gosh, my agent just received 20% for, referring me off to another out-of-state broker. And they just don't know that.
Yeah.
And reviewing real estate transaction files, for better part of my career here, you never see disclosure of that.
Mhm.
Just real estate referral fees. And I've gotten in such big fights with good friends who work in the industry and longtime clients that kind of battle me on, well, it's not impacting the bottom line. It's not, raising commission,
Mm.
but it's
Is it
behind
though?
the scenes. And to not disclose that referral fee, and actually California DRE talks about disclosure of referral fees, but it's not really done. And I just
Mhm.
think that, the whole historical commission dynamic has been completely, tossed up, right? So now I think that any other area where fees are being received and given in connection with that real estate transaction, I think best practice, or even by law, depending on where you live and where you practice, you should be disclosing those referral fees or any kind of financial benefits that you're receiving, because why wouldn't you? If
Yeah.
you're an agent, you're a fiduciary, right?
Mhm.
And
Yep.
you're being looked to by your client, and you have to provide the highest standard of care. And with that comes disclosure and honesty and loyalty. And yes, you disclose that without a
Yeah.
doubt. Yeah.
The one thing that I was listening to Tanya's podcast with James Twiggins, and
I can't wait to
her,
watch.
yeah, her big thing, and her and I have talked about this many times, and it's not even just real estate. It's like, why can't terms and contracts just be simply stated, right? In easy terms. And these marketing service agreements aren't, they're not. They're not.
No,
It's like a little sheet of paper. Who knows when you're getting it? It's probably like when you're submitting an offer or when it's too late. Or, I told someone the other day, I was like, what would these agreements look like if it said, like, hey, I'm partners with ADT. And if you buy
right,
a thing from them, they're going to pay me $200. Or, hey, the lender I referred you to pays $15,000 a month to help us with our marketing. Like, it might just help pause, or shoot,
right.
hey, thanks for using Zillow. Just so you know, we're getting 40% of whatever your agent's making. And you,
Right,
as a buyer, should probably know
right.
that because you're responsible and it could impact how you
Yeah,
negotiate, right?
100%. Yeah, knowledge is power. So to know that that money is, exchanging hands, yeah, that would definitely make the consumer more informed and maybe provide them with some more negotiating power, which is a lot what's happened with these big changes too.
Yeah, it's like it should 2025 be like the year of removing gray area, which is probably not going to be, but it would be really nice if it was.
I feel like everyone should be multitasking towards that goal, because no one wants to go through this hell again. So
Mhm.
let's look at any other blind spots that out there and let's address them, because I feel like the cat is out of the bag now. So let's just fix it, and let's not have any lawsuits, follow us around. Like we don't need that. We definitely don't need the DOJ. So yeah, there's a lot that needs to be unraveled so that
Cleaned
we
up. Right. All right. So speaking of how consumers can end up paying more because of referral fees, at least in my opinion, let's go into consumer facing questions. If they have not fallen asleep already from all the brokerage jargon that we have just hashed out for 20 minutes. So,
right.
with clearer rules about commission agreements, what do you think consumers now have more power with in their transactions?
It's amazing. They have a lot of power, and
Oh, you're
they have,
good.
yeah, sorry. They have a lot of power, and it's whether really the consumer even knows that.
Hmm.
So, it all kind of, do we have informed consumers that know the changes? Well, a lot of those consumers are not really thinking about that, right? They're
Hmm.
thinking about, we need to buy our first home here. And, they're selecting an agent, probably the very first agent they meet. And then it really goes to, well, how is the whole commission dynamic and options being conveyed to that consumer? So a good agent, an ethical, law-abiding, good agent that would, understands their fiduciary duty, is going to inform their client. And the
Hmm.
client be more informed and empowered, and they'll be able to negotiate for the very first time. The buyer will be able to negotiate commission with their
Right.
agent. I mean, that's huge, right? I mean,
Yeah.
theoretically, they could have done it before, but
And
it
I don't know, the way most of the
wasn't
contracts were
the way it
written. Yeah, I mean, most of the way it was written, it was like, yeah, I charge 2.5, 3, whatever it is,
was.
whatever
Yeah,
percent. But if
yeah,
they're offering more, I'm going to keep that too. And it's like, okay, well, what kind of negotiation power does the buyer have? And think about those 9 states. When I wrote about this,
yeah,
where
yeah.
you can't rebate a client. So like, I can't say,
That's
hey,
wild.
it's yeah, hey, lobbying, thanks a lot.
Yeah,
It's so stupid. Like if it's good for 41 states, the 9 others should be like, oh yeah, okay, we're wrong. Um, but I think about that, like in those 9 states, even if the agent did collect more, they weren't allowed to give some of that back to their client. It was considered illegal. So in
wow.
those 9 states, now it's like, well, hey, the more you negotiate down, the better you can make your offer look because now you're just requesting 2% to be paid, not 3 or 3.5, whatever it is. It
Hmm.
makes your offer look better because that's really the only tool you have because you can't say, hey, if you can get more, give it back to me. Like it's not, it doesn't work. It never worked that way. But now at least they have that option. And
Right.
they probably don't even know that. And I don't know if you see this a lot, but I wrote about this that I feel like for so long everyone was like, just use an agent, it's free. So like consumers were like, okay, like didn't think much of it. And then a
Yeah.
couple of years ago, it was like, we're just kidding. We can't tell you that we're free, but the seller's going to pay it. So don't worry about it. And they're like, okay.
Right.
Um,
Right.
and like, shame on us for not interviewing people and doing due diligence as a consumer, but no one's really taken the time to explain how it works. And now
No.
I think it's a great time to start doing that. We should have been doing it all along, but like, what's a fiduciary mean? What does that even mean? What does the word mean?
Right.
What should you
Yeah.
expect? And
Agreed. I do think that, if consumers were, I mean, a lot of consumers have been enlightened by this process, right? So it's always, I always say, for the people that have kind of fought against these changes or fought against the spirit of the class action litigation and the conspiracy and all of these horrible things, right?
mhm,
Even if you don't believe that, even if you don't think anything was wrong, like that moment's past.
yeah,
Generally the consumer is enlightened by all of this. The rules are different. You better get on the right ship here and do the right thing, or you could find yourself in big trouble. I mean, that's the
right.
way I think about it. But so many consumers are not informed, and I think it's
Mhm.
like groups like yours and other consumer watchdog groups. You guys really, your value just continues to increase in this industry with these changes because you are an independent source of this type of information.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Let's do, since we're talking about this, let's do some red flags on things they shouldn't be telling you. So maybe one would be uh, the lawsuit was bullshit. Nothing changed. That's a red flag, right? Big time.
Yes,
If you're
absolutely.
interviewing them, like, yeah, something has changed.
Right.
Um, Let me think of some good ones. Oh, we can skip the home if we can't get an answer on commission. That's my other
Yeah,
red flag.
don't like that one.
Have you seen any other ones that you're like, what's wrong with you? Like, don't tell people.
Well, I've heard of this firsthand, not just in reading out there, but firsthand, listing agents telling unrepresented buyers that they have to sign an agreement with them to see the property. And I
No,
think
you
that is
don't.
a misunderstanding that, oh, in order to see any property here in the United States, I have to hire an agent. And I think that's a misconception that
Mhm.
some have sort of and sort of reiterated and forced, and we need to remove that. That's not true.
Absolutely. Oh, and then if you don't offer commission up front, people might skip your home, which is
Yeah.
like, I don't even know how you would say that in California because it's not even in there's not
No,
even their
that's
agreement
yeah,
anymore. So it's like, and
that's
everyone's surviving, correct?
yeah,
Everyone.
that's very interesting because I think California Association of Realtors did the right thing. Because I was in some of those meetings to train on those first set of forms,
Mhm.
and obviously they look much different now. Of
Oh
course,
yeah.
the J did their formal inquiry into CAR's forms and as in other states. But yeah, I think that was a great move by CAR to do that. Take that drama right out of there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't mean not having a commission stated up front doesn't mean that the seller wouldn't be willing to help cover your cost. It's
100%. And
So anyone
that
telling you differently.
conversation has to happen. That conversation can now happen during the offer
Mhm.
contract negotiation process, kind of where it should be. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's
And I
not
think
so.
James Wiggins, and I don't know if you follow a lot of what he puts out there, but I
Mhm.
think he really did a great service for the industry, because with all of the sort of overcomplication of it, all these kind of weird workarounds, or, oh, can I do this? Can I do that? He was really putting out there, and it almost just kind of became a thing where he was urging, listing agents to communicate to buyers agents, just put your offer in writing. We're going to entertain all offers. And that was like the best advice. Something so
Right.
simple, and also, concurrently sort of upholding a listing agent's fiduciary duty to the seller. It really
Yeah.
checked a lot of boxes, and I loved that.
It's just weird though. Like, why didn't that come from NAR?
I
Why, or
know.
like, why didn't it come from the unofficial spokesperson for NAR, who's the champion of real? This person's just gets on my nerves. I'm sure that he will figure out I'm talking about him and send me some nasty tweet or
Oh no.
something. But it's just weird. Like, I don't understand why they're relying on other people to be the messenger
Yeah.
when,
It feels that way, because where's the message? Where's
yeah.
the message on that? But luckily there are people like James and others that are helping guide, agents in the right direction. Yeah.
Oh, I thought of one more red flag. Some brokerages, some big ones, really like to tell listing clients that they have exclusive programs that they can list their home on to like test pricing and blah, blah, blah. When really the idea is that they can get both sides of the deal and sell their home to someone within their brokerage or use your home to recruit buyers. And your home really, unless you're Kim Kardashian
Right.
or I don't really like her or follow her. I should find someone better. Who's a better person?
I don't
If
follow her.
I can't even think of anyone. I
Yeah, but famous people, and obviously there could be other situations too,
Sure.
issues and death. But I think you're right. I think it is a red flag when one of the first sales pitches that are coming out of an agent's mind is like, let's test it here, and we won't, broadly market it. And obviously this speaks to the clear cooperation policy and debate on that. But yeah, it really should be consumer driven if it's not going to be on the MLS. It's right. Those are consumer
Right.
driven reasons why they don't want that exposure, why maybe netting the most is not as important to them as these other priorities. So
Mhm.
I agree with you. That would be a red flag.
There's so many. Part of me just wants to be like, hey, if anything bothers you in your gut that you feel maybe someone's telling you the wrong thing, please email one of us, email somebody. I don't care
Yeah,
if it's midnight. I'll be like, yeah, that sounds like shit. Don't do that. Or hey, let me connect you to someone who will tell you yes or no whether that's
right. There needs to be
okay.
a hotline. Are you available tonight, Wendy? I
I
just need.
know. Unfortunately, I always I need to just shut my phone off. Maybe I'll do it in the holidays. I doubt it, but
But
uh
there's so much, and it's funny. I have a good broker friend who's like, Summer. It was right before I wrote that article about the enforcement trifecta and this sort of like secret profit idea. But she sat me down. She's like, you have no idea what's going on out there. And it's almost like she says it in a cute way, like, I'm working on compliance and I'm not coming across these bad things because no one's going to tell you about it. But
mhm.
she enlightened me that, not that I can't imagine it on my own. There's good and bad, and there's more good than bad,
Mhm.
but the bad give the good a bad name.
Well, why don't the
Um,
bad just go away? That's what I just don't understand.
they
I
need
see,
a
I
new
see,
job.
my God, I see the real estate Facebook groups, and I'm just like, well, that's not right. Screenshot, that's not right. Screenshot, like,
I think that whole forum, I'm not sure, doesn't anybody realize that people, enforcers, they police those forums? I mean, that's not a good place to advertise your thought process and what's going on out there if
mhm.
it's not, on the up and up. Yeah.
It's almost like a broker needs to have a like social media person, like not for their company, but to like police what illegal things their agents talking about in these groups because and I know there are some wonderful people out there, and that's why consumers you need to interview because
Yes.
there are the ones in these Facebook groups that we talk about who have a giant team. They have the number one agent written next to their name, and it's what was the one I got? Oh, he said he was like the number one agent in Minnesota or something like that. And someone sent it to me, and we looked it up, and it was like number one agent rated by some service that you have to pay for. And it was based on, it's not about sales. It's not about reviews. It was about a paid platform, but he left that part out, right? It wasn't like number one in sales. Not that that even matters. None of
I
that number
gotta
one stuff
say,
matters.
that might be my one of my pet peeves because I review advertising for a living for compliance, and I can't tell you how many number one agents I cross. I come across daily, and I'm always saying the same thing. You can't say this unless it's true, and give some context. What's the source? What's the time period? Oh, this was 20 years ago. Okay, then we should probably say that.
Right.
True and accurate, and you don't want to mislead the public. And these are things such as in California that the DRE could pursue licensees on
Hmm.
kind of misleading advertising. So that's
Yeah.
to have some state law behind those representations so people have
Too
to
bad
go.
you don't work in Massachusetts because I reported an agent who has been sued by her clients more than once, but they can't talk about it because they signed NDAs. She totally lied about how many sales she had, like exaggerated the number. Like, look how many homes we've sold last year. And everybody, like four different people were like, look at this ad. She's lying. She's lying. So I sent it to literally like the high up branch in Massachusetts of the Realtor Association. I was like, hey, this person is like a problem person. I don't know why she still even has a license because she was like in the media that year for something else about money missing. And like here she is lying about stuff. And they were like, wow, that's not really what we look at. I'm like, oh my God.
Now that's, you said Realtor Association, but what is there a governmental entity that regulates the real estate law that would be?
Yeah, I could go that route too. But I even screenshot it because there's something in realtor ethics that says like misleading advertising. I even
Yeah,
clicked,
oh, absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. But
And
it's
they were
funny,
like,
like
no.
stuff like that. I mean, in California, that crosses over. Yeah. I mean, people, I don't know, breaking an ethical guideline, that's one thing. Breaking a real estate law where the Department of Real Estate can investigate you, and they're not just going to investigate you, they're going to investigate your broker. And that's annoying for the broker, which gives them
Mhm.
more motivation to be controlling their advertising of agents to make sure that what's being put out there is true and
Yeah.
accurate. So I don't know, for me, yeah, ethical guidelines are fantastic. It holds realtors to a higher standard, but even beyond that, it's kind of nice when state law keeps people in the right lane. Yeah.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Especially if they decide to leave the realtor association, at least to still have.
Well, they might get kicked out of that realtor
Oh
association too.
yeah. I don't know.
Sometimes that happens, I hear. I don't know.
Yeah, and then there was one, this one agent, another one in Massachusetts, a separate one. I love her. Her and her mom work together. And she's like, oh, we have this guy who has been kicked out before. They keep letting him back in and
Oh
we
my
keep
gosh.
reporting him. We keep reporting him because he's doing stuff, but they're mad at us because they think that we're just like trying to get rid of him again. She's like, he's doing the wrong things. They
Right.
just let him. It's just
Giving
weird.
realtors
Like
a
some
bad
people.
name. Yes.
Ah, yeah, you wonder why your reputation is where it is. Like get your people in line. I'm so off track. Damn it. All right, let me go back. So let's go back to settlement. So how can buyers and sellers take advantage of these new rules to maybe better protect themselves, or maybe some tips when it comes to these agreements in California, fees? Like, how do you think consumers should approach this?
Well, consumers need to do their own due diligence, right?
Please,
Because
good Lord, please.
even as like I serve as an expert witness in civil cases, and this will often be asked of me when I'm on the witness stand. What was the buyer's duty to do their due diligence, right? So, I mean, they do have a stake in this.
Hmm.
So I think it starts with education. I mean, if they were just to review, your organization's website, that would be, they need to diversify before they even go to the table, right? They have to be armed with what are our opportunities here. And I think the settlement opens up a lot of doors, and not just for buyers, sellers too, right?
Hmm.
I mean, sellers too. So many people just focus on buyers, but some buyers haven't been all that happy about the fact that now they're basically financially responsible for their agent's compensation. And
Hmm.
some people have kind of enforced that, yeah, this is not good for first time home buyers and blah blah blah. But I do think it opens up the door that an informed consumer can literally interview
Hmm.
buyer's agents. You don't have to go with the first person that you talk to on the phone. You can interview them. You can ask them questions about what they're going to do. And I'll tell you, it's a great exercise.
Hmm.
Agents. And for me personally, my mom has worked in real estate for over 30 years, and she works her butt off for buyers, right?
Yeah.
Buyers sometimes never buy,
Yeah.
right? Show
Right.
property for years and, never make the deal. And I do think now it gives buyers agents an opportunity to ensure that they're going to get paid, to
Mhm.
really be able to quantify and qualify what they do. And then of course it's an open discussion on commission, and maybe the buyer can lower that commission. And I think slowly but surely, I think that will happen. I think buyers
Yeah.
have a lot of power. Agents are going to actually compete. I mean, the concept is great. It just needs to be executed in a uniform way. If we have
Mhm.
everybody doing different things, that's going to be against the consumer, right? We need to
Mhm.
all get on the same page. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's very valid. God, please interview people. I don't know why we don't do that. And it's funny you
Yeah.
say that because I'm working on something. I was going to go out by the end of the year, but I told you what a shit show my past couple weeks have been because I say yes to too many things, including PTO stuff.
Right.
And again, Christmas gifts for a bunch of people that I have not even organized or gotten on top of yet.
I'm with you.
I'm working on, hey, if you're going to buy or sell sometime next year, the best thing you can do for yourself now is to like interview and search online and start pulling names of people you might want to work with. So it's not a last minute. And I think that's part of it, right? Like you meet with an agent and they're like, okay, you need to get pre-approved. And they're like, okay, well, who do I go to? And those partnerships between like the lender who's paying the marketing ads, they're like, oh, I have someone here, use them. So we
Right.
just like move on over there when it's like, well, is that person going to give you the best rates? Or are you going to have some fees? Like what, you don't know what you don't know until you start comparing people. And like the
Right.
best thing you could do now is just start interviewing people.
Yeah,
And
and have a set of questions, right?
yes,
Ask the
yeah.
agent about their sales record, their tracker. How many houses did you sell last year? And ask them about those stats. There's a lot of new agents out there that may not have those histories. Okay, well, that's
Mhm.
first interview one. Now let's interview a second agent. And
Right.
buyers have a lot of power in deciphering who they want to work with.
And you're
Yeah.
not rushed. Like if you do it now, you're not rushed. And I think what would be super interesting, especially for buyers, if you make it clear, like, hey, we're not looking until the end of the school year. I'm just like meeting people now.
Right.
If someone starts pressuring you, because they obviously it's not very busy right now and they probably aren't making a lot of money. If someone's like harassing you, like we should go look at this, we should go look at this, you'll know like, hey, probably not for
Nobody
me,
wants
right?
that. Right.
Yeah. So it's like almost like a good way to watch their behavior after they know you're interested to see, are they looking out for me? Are they looking out for their pocket? Like, how are they treating me as I'm waiting to hit the market? Ugh, I don't know, just
A
good
simple
interview.
And with if I'm wearing my investigator hat, which
Yeah.
sometimes I can't help but wear, my former investigator hat, search them, search these people online. And it's not
Hmm.
just Yelp and Google, right? I mean, I say make sure they're licensed, right?
Hmm.
Go if you're in California, you're going on DRE's website, you're running their name through the license portal, and you're actually seeing if they have any disciplinary actions against them, which are
Hmm.
public record, and you're making sure that they're licensed and they're licensed with the brokerage. I mean, sometimes agents' licenses expire. And a good, I shouldn't say good, a broker that's supervising that agent could miss that. I mean, that happens. I see that happen. So I always say, do some legal checks. The internet is a beautiful place
Hmm.
for vetting some of these things. So that's just my
Yeah.
protection.
Yeah. And on Selling Later too, I should mention we offer for consumers to do like report cards for people. Uh,
Excellent.
not for real estate agents, because lately they have been submitting competitors' names. And I'm like, you are wasting our time because if you can look up this stuff by yourself, like go on your MLS and pull the own information yourself. But
Yeah,
for
it's all there.
consumers, like let's take a look at their actual sales. Let's take a look at how long their homes were on the market. How many price drops have they
Right.
had? Do they use the same lender all the time? Like all that stuff we can find out for you and help you not to decide if you want to use them or not, but at least craft some questions to call out. Can you explain this to me? Why do 5 out of your 10 homes have price drops? Like what happened? So that's available too. But yeah, please.
That's fantastic. And you mentioned, if an agent is recommending a lender or
Mhm.
recommending an escrow or title company, an informed consumer might ask, well, what are their fees? Can we get a net sheet from that escrow, holder before we enter into a
Mhm.
contract where we agree? And do you have any relationship to that escrow company? So again, the informed consumer is more powerful than before, right?
Right.
Because so much emphasis on transparency. Licensees have to do the right thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you're not rushed, you have the
Yeah.
time to
Yes.
be
Yes.
your own little investigator, right? Like
That's right. Oh, yes. It's so fun.
dig up some dirt. And if you can't do it, I'll do it for you.
That's right.
Like, and on my free time. Again, it'll probably be at midnight. Oh man.
The
See, I'm
wee
on.
hours. Yeah.
It's just never ending. That's okay. That's what you sign up for. All right.
That's
Wrap up questions because um I don't want to take up too much of your time and I could talk forever and I get off track forever. What do you think the next big issue, maybe lawsuit, might become in real estate?
So honestly, and I don't mean to beat a dead horse here, but I mean, the Department of Justice statement of interest, filed just 48 hours before the final court approval hearing, which really, the timing of that it's disgraceful in some
I
ways.
I
That
almost
doesn't do anybody really any good. And especially when the judge didn't care, it didn't make a difference. I mean, this should have come out so much sooner. I guess I was naive to believe, Wendy, that DOJ might have been one of the people at the table when the settlement was
Mm,
coming to fruition. I just thought that that would be something that let's be really proactive here. And I don't know, maybe that was something that was asked and didn't happen. But I do think that this issue that the DOJ brought up in their statement of interest, that they don't like the fact that buyers have to enter in an agreement before home.
mhm,
That's
right.
kind of a scary revelation. I mean, I understand they're saying they have independent antitrust law concerns. They believe it could harm consumers or buyers specifically. It could limit competition between brokers. Okay, but now what?
Yeah.
These changes have been in effect since August. Forms have been, we're underway here. Realtors are trying to do the best they can do. And the fact that DOJ puts that out there, I think we sort of have to get to the bottom of that. Otherwise,
Mhm,
the DOJ is telling everybody that, hey, perfect compliance with the settlement is not going to protect you from
yeah.
our scrutiny. I don't like those final words. I
Yeah.
don't. Now, if I was actually a practicing broker, a realtor, and I'm not, I don't practice real estate. I'd be pretty upset by that and concerned. And I would want to figure out, well, how do we solve this problem? Because I want to be able to work hard for my clients, use the right forms, say the right things, do everything on the right side of the law and not have to be worried about the DOJ. So for me,
Right.
that's sort of first and foremost. And then, figuring out if cooperative compensation, although allowed by the settlement, is this something that are we going to be haunted by forever with the DOJ? Those are things that I think that need to get solved. And granted, there's a lot of other issues, but
Yeah.
biggest,
No,
those
I
are the
agree.
biggest for me.
I still wonder, so what? It's like right before the holidays, the administration changes
Right.
in January, and it's
Yeah.
like, well, I heard someone say like, well, when Trump takes office, like they're going to go away. And the reality is the DOJ has been fighting with NAR since longer I've been alive, probably.
Right.
So
Right.
nothing goes away.
No, I might sleep for a little while.
Right. Yeah, it might
A
slow
little
down.
nap,
It might
but
not. Or they
yeah.
might like burn the place down before the administration changes. Like nobody knows,
Oh
right?
my
No one
gosh.
knows.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I know what you mean though, because again, NAR says this, the plaintiffs say this, the DOJ
Yeah.
says this, and everyone's like, who do I listen to? I don't want to
Right.
get sued again. Like, how do I just do the right thing?
Yeah. And I also think with the workarounds that have been specifically spelled out in that motion that was filed by the plaintiff lawyers, I really do think that, I mean, realtors need to be evaluating right now at the end of the year. Okay, do my forms comply with the settlement?
Yeah.
Okay. And, at this point, I just think agents should be really, realtors and agents, they need to be critically thinking and they can't just accept stuff because that's kind of where we got here in the
Yeah.
first place. So they have to truly vet it because we don't want to relive any massive litigation next year. There's been way too much drama in the real estate industry. It shouldn't really be that exciting, and it has been.
Yeah. Or that messy or
Yes,
that
that messy. That
confusing.
excitement.
Yeah, just because you saw it on YouTube or TikTok does not mean it's correct. So please
Oh,
don't.
uh,
Please, just like consumers, like, hey, agents, like, do your own due diligence and make
yes,
sure that what
yeah,
you're doing is correct.
yes.
Um, and the last thing, because I find this fascinating because this is the answer I get when we talk about like referral fees or dual agency. It's that, but it was disclosed, so it's fine. I disclosed it, but it was fine, and I keep seeing that over and over again for all different variety of reasons. And so I want to know from your perspective what the difference is between like it was disclosed and a consumer signing a paper. Like, is it, what's the best way to word this? Like, it, so what if it was disclosed? Is it more about how you explained it to the consumer versus what's on the paper? Or,
So, in my opinion, and again, having served as an expert witness, and even California DRE put out a helpful article on this for licensees. I think electronic signatures and the fact that documents can be signed within a heartbeat has
Mhm.
really changed the game. Whereas you're not, now it's not so typical that a seller and a listing agent are, side by side going through each page, and the seller's reading it, the listing agents, answering any questions that they can, granted if they're not legal or tax related.
Mhm.
But that's changed, right? I mean, and it's so, the amount of documents that a principal has to sign is so daunting anyway, and they got about 10,000 other things in their mind at the same time when you're selling or purchasing property. So, they may not be completely focused, and if they're signing something that's been just sent to them electronically, they're pressing start and they're clicking
Yep.
through. I mean, I would say a lot of consumers do that. So, but that doesn't change the licensee's duty. And I say licensee because it's realtor or not.
Mhm.
A licensee as a fiduciary has a duty to explain what the consumer is signing. Explain it. You don't just put something in and say nothing. And that's what's happening electronically. Hey, electronic signatures are great,
Yeah.
but people can also get in trouble. And I think that narrative, and I take it to like a civil lawsuit. If you're talking to that buyer or seller on the sand and they're asking, how was this document presented to you? And it's actually, my agent just quickly emailed it to me because we wanted to get our offer in as soon as possible or whatever. I mean, and that's common, but
Yeah.
that's not going to preclude the licensee from potential legal action, civil suit, and even more under, a government regulator enforcing real estate law. Yeah.
So it was disclosed isn't going to work for you if you didn't explain it. Or if you explained it wrong. There's like that, I think I talked about this before, that dual agency case in New York, right? Where it was, this brokerage did 10,000 dual agency transactions in 7 years. I forget the number. Was it 7 years?
Wow.
Something crazy. Yeah, ridiculous.
That's quite the number.
Yeah, how convenient for them and lucky for them. But
Yeah.
then, I think the court battle was like 7 years, and it finally, they settled out of court right before the trial was supposed to start. And I'm guessing it wasn't in the brokerage's favor because within that settlement, they now are not allowed to incentivize their agents to make more money if the transaction closes in house. And one of the big things was like,
Oh, wow. I would hope not, but
yeah, well, I can think of a few people who have a reputation for doing that as well. So take notes if you're listening. But the interesting thing is that, they would say like how dual agency was disclosed, like the brokerage is like, we'd had all the paperwork, but it wasn't explained and consumers didn't understand. And
yeah,
so, if you, I think it's
not
Houlihan
enough.
Lawrence was the brokerage, but like if your idea of it was disclosed, it's fine is okay, you should probably read that case because it was disclosed on a piece of paper. It just
Yeah.
wasn't explained.
It's not enough. And, when you work in real estate, and I often sometimes feel sorry for real estate licensees, everything they say and do and advertise and transact, consider yourself in a fishbowl.
Yeah.
So, and everything counts, words matter. And, really, licensees, when they have these conversations with consumers in person, they should be reiterating that in writing so that everyone walks away with the same, a good meeting of the minds. That's
Mhm.
so important, and to document that, because again, you have to transact with the idea that you could be sued in the the future on this exact deal, even if your clients love you. Unfortunately, you have to think like that. But if you think like that, you'll be able to protect yourself, and your client will probably be better served as well. So
Yeah. There's a broker in California, the ones I emailed you about that escrow thing, where
yeah.
they do everything in Slack. So there's a record of
Oh,
absolutely everything said. Everything is in there. I mean, I guess unless it's deleted, I don't know.
I know
Um,
beverages that do that too. Yes.
I have no idea if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I know it's somewhere saved. So at least there's that versus a phone call.
Yeah.
Um, so, maybe the key for consumers, as we wrap up is next year, do your due diligence.
Yes.
If you don't understand something, get answers and get everything in writing.
Yes,
Everything,
absolutely. And I think
everything in writing.
the red flags that you pointed out are great too, right? So if a consumer is hearing something that's not sounding so great, their little buzzards should be going off here that this might not be the right agent for me.
Yeah, it's funny. I always tell people like your gut will tell you. Like if something feels off, like trust your gut. Ask
Yeah.
more questions or just find someone else because you're probably right.
Yeah.
There's wonderful people out there,
There
but,
are
but they are
many.
mixed in with some morons and some not so great people, and you
Right.
just kind of have to fish for them, which is
Yes,
going to take a little bit of work. I know
that's right.
nobody wants to do the work, and then you go on Zillow, and now you might have to pay more money in commission because your agent has to pay Zillow a ton of money, but
That's right.
oh, what a mess. But thank you. If anybody wants to reach out to you, because I know I have another PTO thing to do because I keep saying yes to shit, so I have to get going. But if anyone wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
They could find my website, expertdrecompliance.com. I'm on LinkedIn. You just search my name, and I'm happy to answer any questions. This is
Are
my
there,
life. This is my life.
can you help people out of different states from an NAR settlement standpoint?
I have clients that are licensed in multiple states.
Okay.
So yes, I've actually become, sort of well versed in other laws as a result of my clients being licensed in different states. So just
Mhm.
because you're not in California doesn't mean it's a deal breaker, but I'll be sure to tell anyone that calls me if I can help them or not,
Yeah.
depending on the matter.
It's
Yeah.
worth every penny, people. It's better to do that than to get sued, which I'm sure someone will next year.
Let's
There has to
not
be some
forget.
other law. It's never ending. I think there's so many lawyers that thought, I'm going to get off track. Damn it. All right, real quick. There are so many lawyers. I want to put this out there. There are so many lawyers out there who tried to jump in with copycat settlements who, if the settlement, if everything keeps going, wipes them
Right,
out, right? But
right.
in that process, most of them probably didn't know a lot about real estate. And I can think of one in particular who didn't. And I met with them just because I wanted to sniff them out to
Oh,
see like if they knew, what they
yeah,
knew about the industry.
yeah.
We talked for 2 hours and they were like every like 10, 15 minutes, they're like, wait, what? You can do
Oh,
that? Like,
no.
wait, you can't do that as an attorney. Like, how do people get away with that? And I'm like, well,
Oh,
so just to put that out there, like I think not that I want to say it's open season, but like I think that people are more aware of issues and not afraid to go after them now that
yes.
they see that maybe there's a possibility. Because in the past, I think they thought NAR was so big, nobody
Yeah.
could take that on.
It's definitely a possibility that people need to consider. If it wasn't bad enough that you have all of these different things to contend you, yes, there are private attorneys seeking these issues, watching what's
Yeah.
going on, looking for
And
opportunity. I hate to say it that way, but it's true. Yeah.
also, can consumers email you in California if they think
Yeah.
something's
I,
fishy?
I mean, I work with everybody really, but
Okay.
yes, I do often help consumers when they have complaint related issues, or sometimes I'm hired as an expert. So yes, consumers.
Okay.
Yeah.
You work for everybody.
Have a story or a question you want to share? Hit us up at therealestatereplay.com.